All right, today we're going to talk about buyers and dialogues. All right, I think that's the title of it. And what I've done is I've pasted into the chat a link to the document that I'm sharing, which you're free to. Maybe I only texted that to Khalid because I was chatting with him. How about that? All right. Just so you guys, when you want one, a copy. All right. So scripts for buyers. One of the things that what's the best way to say this? A lot of real estate agents who sell a lot of real estate are not very good at selling real estate. And one of the misconceptions is that sales volume equals sales proficiency. Trust me, I see lots of contracts. All right, my team probably has about 9 going on at the moment, escrows, and I see contracts written by agents that one of them says in the top 1% nationally of Coldwell Banker, one of the worst contracts I've seen in a long time. And I've seen some really bad contracts. So, but this person, I don't disbelieve that they're in the top 1%, right? Because even though they don't seem to have ever read the contract or know what they're doing, how, you might want to wonder, could somebody be actually bad at real estate, but yet make a lot more money than you are, right? Maybe. How could that be? And the answer is they're good at talking to people. Right. In other words, there are some agents that are very good at the talking to people part. They're good at the networking part. They're good at getting clients, but they're not necessarily good at real estate. Right. There are some people that are really good at real estate if only they had people to talk to. Right. People to real estate with. Well, you get what I'm saying. Right. So one of the things that you have to do is stop being a secret agent. Right, you'll notice I've just, from walking around, have had 2 people that I know stop while I was having lunch with somebody, give me the card. I have somebody thinking about selling their home, and another one at another. So you need to actually let people know that you're in the real estate business. You're going to have to admit it sometime. Right, at some point you're going to have to admit it to people. Right, and that could involve wearing a name badge. It could involve wearing, I go with the bling route. But whenever you're talking to people, at some point you might want to ask them, do you know of anybody who's thinking of buying or selling a home? This is what is technically called a qualifying question. In a upcoming class, I'm going to talk about objections and what's the difference between a condition, an objection, and a stall, and what are the different ways in which you could answer them. But this would be in the sales process a qualifying question. They say we are looking for a home, right? This is as an example. Now, would you be interested in some information that may save you time and money in buying a home in today's market? Now this is really, really old school. But just because it's old doesn't mean it's necessarily out of date. I mean, look at me, for example. And what I mean by old is that if you were to go back in the archives of real estate sales history, and you were to look at listing presentations and buyer consultations, what you're going to find is a similarity in what people's objectives typically are. So if I'm selling a house, the 3 objectives are: I want to get the most money I can, I'd like it to be done conveniently as possible, and I'd like to sell my home within the time frame I have in mind. Guess what buyers want? Take a leap for this. How about 3 things? Number 1, they would like to pay the least money possible to get a house. Number 2, they would like buying a house not to be a big hassle. And number 3, they would like to be able to do it within the time frame that they have in mind. For some people, that is, the schools, right? We need to be in time so the kids can go to the school we want. Sometimes they have different deadlines. So what we ought to be doing, and by the way, I've been trying to think, are there other things that they're looking for. Can you please share the scripts in the chat? Would somebody help me out and keep sharing it as we go along? So that, would somebody do that for me? So, please. I don't know if that's actually happened, but if you guys wouldn't mind, otherwise I'm going to be asked throughout the class. Right. All right. So that's what buyers want. They want the same thing: the money, convenience, and time. So would you be? This is called a involvement question, right? Would you be interested in information that could save you time and money in buying a home in today's market? Now, many people that are serious about buying a home are going to say, well, yeah, sure. But these people have an objection. One, I'm sure you guys are never going to hear. If we need help, we have a friend in the business, right? That's probably never hear that one. Now, you do realize that virtually everybody knows somebody that has a friend in real estate. And when we get into a discussion of the difference between an objection and a stall and a condition, right, which, like, a stall, let's say you've decided you're going to go to a party, right, wearing with your mask and vaccinated, of course, but you're going to a party. And you've decided you're going to get a new outfit, a new suit, a new coat, a new whatever, a new dress, whatever. And when you already know what you want it to be, you already have it in your mind what you'd like to buy, you have a price, and you go to a store, and you walk into the store, and the salesperson comes up and says, can I help you? And what do most of us say? No thanks, I'm just looking, right? I'm just looking. Now that's not actually true in that case. You're not just looking, you're there because you want to buy something. So a lot of times we know somebody in real estate is a stall. Just like, I'm just looking. Hey, don't worry, I already got, I know, wonderful, right? You know, so you should expect to hear that. Great, the way the market is, you might need several friends, you know. It's a joke, right? The way the market is, I've said you need all the friends you can get. If you want to get the most money, you want to get the best house possible for the most money and get the best deal in this market. By the way, if I knew of a home that would meet all your needs and would save you money, would you like me to let you know about it? Now, you see, I've had people say, like at an open house, right? We have a friend, right? We already have an agent. And I said, so what you're saying when you say you have an agent is that you've like signed something, right? You've got this exclusive, only work with that agent. Is that, did you sign something? And most of the time they're going to say no. And I said, so let me just see, you know, where we're at. What you're saying is that if I found you a property that met your needs, it was in the right neighborhood, it looked like a great deal, you don't even want me to tell you about it because you already have a real estate agent. Is that what you're saying? And a lot of people would say, well, no, if you find something, let me know. Let me know. Somebody else asking for sharing. All right. Cool. All right. Thank you. Everybody share every 5 minutes and we'll have a go. So just because somebody makes an objection, we have a friend in the business, that does not mean it's a real objection. You just go on. And I'm getting a lot of, thank you. I'm going to stop reading the chat because it throws me off a bit. All right. Now, one of the other big objections that you're going to get is, and by the way, one of the recommendations that I got when I was a new real estate agent, 300 years ago or whenever that was, is that if you're thinking about a conversation you're going to have with people, either a lead generating kind of conversation, we're going to talk about that, or a consultation, like the presentation conversations, and what you might want to do is to take out a piece of paper and write out all of the objections that you think people might have. I have a friend in the business, we're not ready yet, we don't have a big enough down payment, we're waiting for the market. All of the objections that you would expect to get or could get. And then go back down the list and ask yourself, well, what am I going to say? Right? And for example, one that I'm hearing, maybe you are, is that there's going to be, a market is going to crash. I think I'm going to wait next year, 2022. Prices are going to drop. Inventory is going to go up. It'll be great then, right? It's bad now, but it'll be great then. Now, your options when somebody says, I want to wait until 2022, the options are, one, you could just say, oh, well, that makes sense to me too. If I were a buyer, I would wait for a year or so to buy myself. Maybe I'll make a note to contact you sometime September 2022. Maybe we could talk about it then. Or you could maybe discuss it with them. Now, my process for doing this is you don't want to say to people or even come off like what you're saying is, well, that's stupid. It's a bunch of Philistine pig ignorance, that's a dumb, you want to say, well, I understand how you feel, right? I really do, right? I get this a lot. Many people feel exactly the same way. Everybody would like to save money. Now may be challenging. People would, like to wait until the market was softer. I get it. That makes a lot of sense to me. Now, that's a very different approach than saying, well, that's a stupid thought, you're going to lose money. But many people have found, however, that when they really look at it, there's some factors that they need to consider. Number one, we do know that right now the mortgage rates are extremely low, historically low, right? Are they going to remain low? Who really knows, right? Who really knows? There's videos. I've stopped saying that interest rates are going to go down because that people could find videos of me back in 2012 or something. How far back does it go? For years, let's say 5 years ago. There's probably videos of me predicting that interest rates are going to go down, and go up, and they didn't go up, right? So I don't know if they're going to go up or down, but the MBA, which is the Mortgage Bankers Association, which is a little bit later down, expects that interest rates will be at 4.3% by the end of 2022. I'm just saying, right? Now, by the way, one of the things that would make your ability to have conversations with buyers and sellers a lot more effective is if you were researching this kind of stuff already. And there are a couple of easy ways of doing it. One of them is something called Google Alerts. And if you don't know what a Google Alert is, why don't you go to Google and type in Google Alerts, right? And just see what Google says. And what essentially Google Alerts allows you to do is to create an alert where I have a whole bunch of them, where Google will be actively searching all the time for articles that are related to your search. For example, you'll notice is now a good time to buy real estate, right? Is now a good time to buy a home? Is now a good time to invest in real estate? Now, the reason I have set up those alerts is because I'm lazy, time efficient, and what I would rather is that Google all the time be running that search for me and then send me, I have it set up every day, but it could be every week, for them to send me what they found, right? So that I don't have to type it in. The other thing that I do, which is a way to keep up on, how do I know what the Mortgage Bankers Association, right? How do I know what they're doing? There's a program which some of you are maybe more familiar with than others, but it's called Twitter, and you'll notice in a lot of my Twitter feeds I have, here's NAR research, BAE stuff, more NAR research, and usually if I scroll a little bit, you're going to see the National Mortgage News and Mortgage Bankers Association and all that stuff. So if you in Twitter, right, and you don't have to tweet mean things to people to make them cry to have a Twitter account. I looked it up. Apparently you don't have to do that. But if you have Twitter and you follow me, right, because I repost most of that stuff, and you find the Mortgage Bankers Association, you find the NAR and the CAR and your MLS and your association, and you read what they put out, you're going to find you'll have a lot of information about what's happening in the real estate market, which, by the way, would be very useful if you're discussing with people what the real estate market is like now and what it's going to be like next year. It would be nice if you were up on that. By the way, are rents going up or going down? Right? There was a little while where they dipped a little bit, but rents are going back up. So right now, why would somebody want to buy a house now? Number one, rates are low. I mean, like historically low. Number two, rents are increasing, right? Which is, they're catching up, right? Now, what do we mean by every local market is different, other than, every local market is different. Where I'm going with that is that your mileage may vary. So if, like, for example, I'm in a crazy part of California called Silicon Valley, where the average price of a single family home last month in the county was over $2 million. Now, our market does not react even like the market does in Alameda County or Contra Costa County. And by the way, the Bay Area acts differently than Southern California. So, and California, by the way, acts differently than the national. One place where you can see this, which I have sometimes showed to people, but I'm not going to actually maybe do it now, is that if you go into RPR, which you all know how to access the Realtor's Property Resource, and you were to run like San Diego County or even a city, Carlsbad, let's say, and one of the graphs that they'll show you is what their projections are of the historical price of that house, that zip code, that county, and then the nation, right? Sometimes they have California, sometimes they have the nation. And what you'll see is that a lot of times your local market graph does not follow the state or national graphs, right? So just because somebody is reading something about, I hear the market is going to crash, they're reading national material does not necessarily mean that where you are, the market is going to be that way. The housing market isn't going to crash. Now, if you were to create a Google search, is the housing market going to crash? You would find a lot about why the housing market is not going to crash. There are few, if any, believable sources that say the market is going to crash. Now, I was active in real estate when it crashed last time, and what we're doing now is not what we're doing then. Right, because they would make loans to people that without having to verify their income or their assets, and it was 100% financing. They don't do that anymore. And just because, this is a line I like to use with people, just because prices are rising, it doesn't mean it's a bubble. Just because prices are rising does not mean it's a bubble. Because if prices are rising because there is in fact economic demand, and the reason that we have a lot of demand is they haven't built enough houses to satisfy all the people that want to buy them, right? And people have money. Well, when you have money and you have demand and you have a limited supply, prices go up. That's not a bubble, right? That's not a bubble. Now, is it true that there might be more homes on the market next year? The answer is yes. Is it true that there might be less competition, fewer multiple offers? We're kind of seeing that already. However, does that mean prices are going to drop? The answer is no. And it depends on who you ask. But Core Logic thinks that prices, these are national numbers, may only go up 3.5% next year. Zillow, our friends at Zillow believe that it could rise by 11% nationally in 2022. Now, we don't know because this is predicting the future. But prices are likely to rise. One more thing let me say about the prices rising and rent, right? And what does it cost to buy a house? Let's say, and I always use this example, and if you've seen some of my home buying seminars, I actually have a slide on this, but it's an easy thing to explain to people. Let's say you bought an $800,000 house. Now, how much is it going to go up every year after that? Who knows, right? We don't know the future. It's been going up more than almost 20%. Historically, if you look at properties in California, they go up about 10% a year, but let's use 5, right? Let's just say 5%. Now, if you have an $800,000 house and it goes up 5% in value in 1 year, that's $40,000 it's gone up in value in 1 year. Now, if you were to divide that by the 12 months, what it means is that your property is appreciating at $3,333.33 per month. Now, if you're paying rent, right, you're just paying rent, and somebody else maybe has the property that's appreciating. But if you get a mortgage and you are willing to look at it as an offset, and what I mean as an offset is how much is the mortgage payment on a $800,000 house. It depends on your down payment. It depends, but it could be $4,000 or a little bit less, right? It depends. Right now, interest rates are really low. So if the property is appreciating at over $3,000 a month, but your mortgage payment is only $4,000 a month, it seems to me like you're making your effective payment is only like $1,000 a month, because the appreciation is money you're going to get back when you sell it. The other thing I point out to people is that if you were doing that and it was appreciating at 5% a year, or $40,000 a year, let's say roughly every year, in 5 years your property would have appreciated $200,000. Do you think you're going to be able to save $200,000 in the next 5 years by cutting back? Right? You think that's, no more Starbucks, right? You're getting your coffee at 7-Eleven now, right? Because you're trying to, less likely. So this is what you need. You need to maybe make an outline from mine. You need maybe to practice, because when somebody asks you, should I wait or should I act now, you're going to need an answer better than I don't know. So some other scripts that I put together, which I've borrowed from various places, you're going to see in my buyer scripts and the typical buyer scripts that there's a commonality, right, in terms of the kinds of questions we ask. And those of you that have watched my, open house, there's 8 questions that I suggest that you ask. A lot of them are all built into this. So what do we mean by a buyer advertising lead script? Right? KV-Core, as well as other programs, have the ability for you to run what's called a landing page or a squeeze page. KV-Core, by the way, is the integrated marketing system web page that is available to EXP agents and others. There are other companies that use it as well. And you could buy one. If you don't have one, let me know. I could recommend others that do this. But what happens is we run an ad. It's called typically the ads are a landing page. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And they reply, right? And so let's say they've given even their phone number, right? Now, if they haven't, we're going to be doing this in by texting or whatever. Thank you. Now I'm getting lots of peace. That's great. So, hi, this is Mike with eXp Realty. How you doing today? I see you're interested in seeing address of the property. So sometimes when we run an ad, if you've listened to a lot of my videos, I talk about finding a property that's in the MLS that's like, we have a lot of choices because anything with eXp, but finding other properties that are in the MLS that sound too good to be true. And so like in my market, and what's too good to be true is a 4-bedroom under $1 million. I'm in a crazy place, right? And so you find properties that match that, and you push it out on the internet, right, in social media, and somebody has reacted. So these are the various questions. Say you're interested in seeing the property ad. It's a great property. I just had a few questions to make sure I can help you, and then we can go check out the house. Do you have 5 minutes available right now? Right? If they say yes, these are all just basic questions. How long have you been looking to buy a house? Now, one of the reasons we want to ask them that is because let's say they've been doing this for a long time. They're like, oh, we've been looking for like 6 months. Oh, really? Have you seen very many homes. And if they say, yeah, we've seen a bunch of homes, are you working with an agent? And they say, no, well, how have you been seeing all these homes if you're not working with an agent? But anyhow, how long have you been looking? Now, one of the other reasons we want to ask them that is because time. If they, in order for somebody to make a change in how they're finding a home, they first have to accept that the system they're using isn't working as well as they would like it to. So if their answer to how long I've been looking is a long time, now we have a problem that maybe we could solve. What made you click on the ad or whatever for more information? What was about it? Right? 4 bedrooms under $1 million. What is your time frame? What is the description of your ideal property? What is your budget? Do you have an agent? Now, some people ask that right away. I usually wait a little while, just to see, do you have an agent? I oftentimes ask it, are you working with an agent yet? Because what that implies is that if they're not, they're going to, right? Do you have an agent? Yes or no? Do you have a lender lined up? Yes or no? Is this a good way to reach you? Can I email you some additional that match your criteria? Now, that's one approach, right? Now, look at right, those are all the questions I have. I'm going to make an appointment for the first property right now. Do you have any questions? So this is what you would do if you were advertising a property and they were interested in going and looking at it, right? Now, other kinds of internet leads. I mean, if you think about it, where are you going to talk to buyers? They could be among the people you already know, and you could go and have coffee with them. They could be somebody you meet at an open house. And oftentimes, it's because you're doing some sort of an internet marketing. Now, here's another example. Hi, my name is Mike with EHP Realty. I'm calling to follow up to see if there's anything we can do to help or answer any real estate questions I understand you're interested in. Now, you're going to see RAB several times. Now, RAB stands repeat answer back. So I understand you're interested in, and you ask them and they say, yeah, we're interested in that property in Milpitas. And then we would say the property in Milpitas, right? We would repeat their answer back. Would you like to schedule an appointment to see it? Now, sometimes we run ads, or even if we didn't do this intentionally, the property is pending. Now, sometimes agents react, well, why would we want that? We're wasting money. The property is pending. I would prefer that somebody contacted me about a property that's pending than one that's currently active. And that may seem crazy, but the reason is that if it's pending, then we have an opportunity to make an appointment to talk about the process of, would you like to find out strategies on how to save the most money possible when buying a home in a market like we're in today? I mean, in the kind of market we're in today, you're going to need to have a strategy just to buy anything. And if you want to get a good deal, if you want to get the best deal possible, then you're going to need to have a good strategy, maybe the best strategy possible. And what I'd like to do is just take 10, 15 minutes maybe and explain to you my strategy for helping you get the best deal possible when you're buying a home in a market like we're in right now. Is that something, would you like to get the best deal possible? Right? Are you serious about buying a home? Would you say you're serious about buying a home and you'd like to get the best deal possible? Why don't we talk about a strategy? Now, sometimes that isn't as easy to get a commitment if they're hung up on looking at a house. Because if they're saying, no, we just want to see this one. No, we like this one. No, we just want to look at this one. No, we don't want to. All right, you understand they're focused on the house. So let's say they are... So if it's already pending, oh, wow, that was a great property. Too bad you missed it, right? In the kind of market we're in, the good ones, they come and they go. How would you like to make sure that doesn't happen again, right? And we have ways of getting the most of our clients' offers accepted even when there are competing offers, right? Sometimes we do. So these are standard questions. Are you currently renting a home or do you own it? Now, if they say we own a home, then the next question obviously is, are you going to need to sell that property in order to buy another one? If they say, well, yeah, we're going to do that, would you be interested in me giving you an estimate of what your net proceeds are likely to be when you sell your property, so you have a really clear idea of how much cash you're going to have to work with from that sale? Would that be of help to you? Now, if they say, yeah, that's good, this is the beginning of something called a listing appointment. Right? If they currently own their own home. Right? Are you already working with a real estate agent, or do you need our help? Now, if they say, I'm working with an agent, oh, you're working with an agent. Repeat, answer back. If they're like, no, I'm not working with an agent, oh, you're not working with an agent. Right? So if they say, yes, I'm working with the agent, you would go on, there's this next section, and there's a list. Now, before I go through this, let me just say where we're going. So, if somebody says, I already have an agent, your options are to say, all right, well, you're on your own, I'm not going to talk to you. Your options, that's one level. One level would be, if I were able to find you the right home and save you time and money in buying a home, would you be interested in working with me instead of your agent? Yes or no. You're going to find a lot of people are not that loyal. Some are, God bless them. And then you might want to go through a bullet list of things that you do to help somebody. And by the way, that ought to be a list that's in your mind. Because in addition to having reasons why already prepared that somebody would want to buy a home now and not wait to the end of next year, in addition to knowing in advance what you're going to say when somebody asks you that question, you should be able to tell people what your value proposition is as a buyer's agent. Now, those of you who are in my coaching program that have access to my document library, you'll find that I have a value proposition already for you, but when we're going to go through something similar today. And so here's what we do to help our clients. We'll show you every home available. If we do not find the home, we will mark it daily, notify you that we jump on them quickly. We'll knock on doors, send out mailers, make telephone calls. So one of the things that I always tell people is why would they want to work with me as a buyer's agent as opposed to whoever their friend is number one, I would say, I'm going to expose you to some properties that are not necessarily on the MLS that you might be missing. And let me just say, I see lots of chanting. All right, can you add the script to this chat again? Yeah, wow. I'm going to ignore chat for a while. You guys are doing a great job. So, if somebody is the property, one of the things I'll do for you that your agent may not be doing now is I'll be looking for properties that are not on the multiple listing service that meet your needs. Now, these would be a better deal for you as a buyer because if they're not on the multiple listing service, there's not as much competition, there's less likelihood that you're going to get multiple offers. Now, where would we find these properties? Well, there's notices of default, which generally are not available. They're not on the MLS, not necessarily, but the person is in default. There's a whole category of what are called distressed properties. Distressed properties are people in default on their loan, in proceedings for heading towards bankruptcy. Bankruptcy proceedings could be probate, somebody has died, or divorce, right? Which is kind of similar, I guess, to somebody dying, right? So in addition to looking for properties that meet your needs that are distressed properties, we also will do target marketing in order to uncover a home that would fit for you. So for example, if you're looking for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath property that's in the San Jose area that is under $1.1 million and you want it to be in a certain school district or in a certain area, and let's say we find that that property is not on the market right now, rather than just giving up and saying, oh well, the home doesn't exist, what we're going to do is find the people that own properties in that area that meet the criteria where if they were to sell it, it would be roughly in the same price range that you're looking in, and we're going to reach out to those people. and we're going to tell them that we have a buyer. Some of you that research these sort of things and are up on it, there's this thing called the yikes. It's called the yikes. This is like, I think it's silly, but I mean, I have different ones. Let me see, where's the yikes? That's not the yikes. I have an example I found. So this is a yikes flyer, right? Which agents, I mean, it's obviously, it's the picture that, and that is a beautiful looking home. I just have to say, and there's, it's a flyer you could send out. Also, this will be in the document library for those that are in my coaching program, but it's a sample letter that we would send. And so if you were going to make phone calls and do stuff like that, maybe you could be doing it to find a buyer a house. Now, if we were to say, all right, let's talk about how to get listings. I don't want to work with buyers. I just want to get listings. Give me an idea for how do I get a listing. One of the ideas is if you contact people in a given neighborhood and tell them you have a buyer for that neighborhood, when you really do, that's an effective way of getting listings. Now, you might even hear from some of the people that are on YouTube and other places where they'll tell you whether you have a buyer or not, just go ahead and do this. That violates the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics, Standard and Practice. You're not supposed to be telling people in the neighborhood you have a buyer for the neighborhood if you don't have a buyer for the neighborhood. But you understand what we're talking about is you will really have a buyer for the neighborhood, a real person. And that service that you could give to a buyer to get them to commit to work with you is actually a technique for you to be able to find listings. Right, and I have in fact found a seller for a buyer by sending a letter. I've actually done that, and so could you. Now, one of the things that I always say when I'm going into what about all the off-market properties and the distressed sales, and I'm going to do research and I'm going to find them. I'll go through the old expired listings. I'm going to go through HUD Exchange. I'm going to look at. By the way, I've made videos where I go through a home buying seminar and I discuss these different techniques. If you're in my coaching program or somebody on my team or mentoring, I will send you copies of the slides. But when I start talking about doing something that goes beyond Zillow and Redfin, when I start talking to the buyer about providing services that they can't get from their cell phone, because Zillow and Redfin is going to tell them what's on the MLS. It's not going to necessarily give them HUD Exchange properties. It's not going to target neighborhoods. It's not going to be looking at other forms of off-market properties. And so what I would say is if you want me to do that for you, and by doing that, you're more likely to find a property at a better price. You're more likely to negotiate a better deal because you're not competing with a bunch of other agents. If you want me to make that kind of a commitment to you, then you're going to have to make a commitment to me. Because while I'm out there digging up properties for you to buy, I want a commitment that you're agreeing to work with me exclusively during this period of time. Now, just saying to somebody, I want you to work with me exclusively, and I threw in some of those scripts, but I'm going to do another class on the buyer consultation. It was just a freebie that I threw in. Most of the time, this is why I get agents. They say, so I'm meeting with a buyer tomorrow. I was looking on Zip Farms, and I was going to fill out a buyer-broker representation agreement and send it to them in advance for them to sign. Don't you think that's a good idea? Right? Isn't that a good idea? Send them a buyer-broker agreement before you meet with them. Right? Now, this to me is something similar to it's a first date, and you send a prenup. You send a prenup in advance of the first date. Right? Now, some people might not think that's appropriate or it's the right timing. So why would a buyer make a commitment to work with you exclusively? I understand why you want the buyer to make an agreement to work with you exclusively. But the question is why? What's in it for them? What are they going to get that they wouldn't get without the commitment? Well, your willingness to go look for off-market properties, that would require a commitment. And that's something that people are more likely to make a commitment for. Somebody, so if you, I'm not being snarky, but I'm just going to say this. I get lots of questions from real estate agents. If you go yikes flyer, right? Flyer. Let's say you just wanted to know what the yikes flyer is. Real estate flyers that work, create flyers. Look at this. Yikes flyers. And Tom Ferry on Twitter, here's a great example of a yikes flyer. Now, if we want to make sure we're getting yikes flyers about real estate, you're going to see yikes flyers examples. Anyhow, some people will sell you one, right? But it's simply a cutesy picture with the word yikes. Put it in Google, and you too shall find it. All right. So that's why what you need to sell somebody to get them to commit to work with you is this. That if they had one agent who knew and understood what they were looking for and was committed to helping them find it and was willing to go beyond the easy stuff, then they would have a better chance of getting a good deal than having a bunch of agents that they're sort of kind of talking to now and again who they haven't really made a strong commitment to and they haven't got a commitment back. Which is going to work better? One agent knows and understands, committed, working to find it, or a bunch of agents less committed. No one is going to do that kind of research to dig up other properties that are not on the market for you if you won't make a commitment from them. Isn't it true you want to get the best deal possible? Right? Are you serious about buying a house? Would you say you're serious? And you'd like to get the best deal possible? Wouldn't it be better for you if we could find you some off-market? Does everybody see what that's how we close? So I don't send people buyer broker agreements in advance because I believe you need to explain to them what's in it for them to sign the agreement, right? Rather than just emailing it to them and hoping that they will. So these are just general questions. I'm not going to go through them all. Now, one of the things that, if you read through all my 8 basic questions and these, you're going to see that a lot of the same questions repeat. Have you had a chance to meet with a lender to find out, based upon your income, your expenses, and the amount of cash you have available, exactly how much of a home you can qualify and get pre-approved for? Have you done that? Right? That is a question that you would always ask. Now, they're going to either say yes or no. Right? If they say no, I would point out to them that we're in a market where if they do not have a pre-approval letter from a real lender, that most sellers are not even going to look at the offer. And even if they were going to look at an offer, they would want more money from somebody that wasn't pre-approved because they're taking a risk. And I say this to buyers. Let's say you were selling a house for $800,000, and there's 2 offers, $800,000. One is a pre-approved buyer, one is not, but will be soon, the agent promises. Which of the 2 would the seller take? Obviously, they'll take the one with the pre-approved buyer. How much more would that other one have to be for before the seller would even be tempted to take a risk? How much more? Not 5,000, not 10,000, probably not 15,000. It would have to be for a lot more. And sometimes sellers are going to say, I don't care how much more it is. This one's a sure thing. I'm making more money than I thought I would. I'm going to go with it. So I tell buyers that if you're not pre-approved, then it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. First, it'll probably keep you from ever buying anything. But if you ever do buy anything, it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. And you ought to have a good lender. Notice it says recommend lender, so I pasted in the lender that I recommend to people. By the way, it does matter who their lender is. I don't know if the person's on today, but one of the pre-approval letters that an agent showed me is the buyer's pre-approval letter is from a real estate agent / loan agent from a company no one's ever heard of, right? That's not impressive to sellers, right? I'm just saying it's not impressive. Banks, credit unions are better. Now, if they say, yes, I've met with a lender, you might want to talk to them. Landing pages. So what would a landing page be? A landing page might be get a free report on down payment assistance programs. A landing page might be find out how to buy a brand new home. The landing page, there's a bunch of them, right? And we have a lot. And so when somebody goes to that page and they download the report and they give us their information, hi, Bill. This is Mike Devlin with eXp Realty. How are you doing today? I see you're looking to buy a home soon. I'd love to hear a little more about your needs. Do you have a few minutes right now? And then you're going to notice we're asking, to some degree, a lot of the same kinds of questions. Do you already have an agent? Do you have a lender ready? Can I email you some properties? Is this a good way to reach you? Where are you moving from? Is this for you and your family? How many people are in your family? What is your ideal description? Basic questions. And then, thank you for taking time to meet with me. Do you have any questions about buying a home? What's a good time to, and then we try to make an appointment. Now, appointments. A consultation. Later, I probably won't have a chance to go through a lot of them today, but later you're going to see I have some buyer consultation scripts. But how and where and what are we talking about? It's been a long time since I met a buyer at an office, right? I've met buyers, I've met a buyer at a loan agent's office, but usually for me, the first contact, if it's not on a Zoom call or a phone call, would be at a Pete's or Starbucks or something like that. All right, and so rather than, the reality is we have a conversation, but that conversation needs to lead to some sort of an appointment. But we don't want to necessarily call it that. We don't want to call it we want to just call it a quick meeting. And when I'm showing properties to people, and let's say we have a schedule, because I've had people say, we just want to go look at properties, great. And we set that up so that, let's say Saturday we're looking at properties. What I always would suggest is, why don't we meet at, this is Starbucks, right near the first one. Why don't we meet there? A few minutes before, I'll buy you guys a caffeinated beverage, and we'll do what I call just a pre-showing briefing, right? Where we can discuss what we're going to be doing that day and what to look out for and that sort of thing. Won't take more than a few minutes. Is that okay? Now, that becomes the appointment or the consultation. All right. Landing page, more scripts. This is looked over the information from some properties for sale right now. I think you might like. I love sending them over to you. You'll notice that whenever we're replying to an internet lead, we're trying to set up a time to talk about the process, or we're trying to set up a time to show them properties that they've nibbled on, right? Those are the two closes. And then I put in a follow-up lead script. So if you're following up, I'm curious, what have you been thinking since the last conversation? What do you think of the properties? You want to set up a showing? What more information do you need? A referral buyer script is just if somebody that you know has referred them. I'm going to get into other things in a couple of minutes. Online follow-up. This is a sample text, is one for sellers. I'm including that because I've got some seller leads and buyer leads. I'm just throwing that, but this would be just things you could text with them. Right? And this is one of the more comprehensive follow-up dialogues, right, online. Now, again, if somebody has gone to a landing page, a squeeze page, they've filled out a form, it's generated a lead. Hi, my name's, you were recently on our site or looking at a page, and we wanted to thank you for registering. We received your request regarding getting a good deal property in the whatever area. Is that the area you're looking to buy in? What types of properties do you like best? What price range are you looking for? I'm curious, are you currently renting or do you own? Notice that's a no question. Do you need to sell before you buy? You know, whatever they say, great. Is your house currently on the market? Sometimes they are. You're going to find, by the way, if you're a listing agent, that just because you sold their home doesn't mean they're necessarily planning on using you to buy the next property. I had an agent call me yesterday that was shocked, because sold the property, set the people up on a search to find another property. This is a 1031 exchange, and found out yesterday that the client's daughter's friend is a real estate agent, and they're writing offers, and they've gone on to somebody else, right? They've just gone on. Renting, are you month to month, or do you have a lease? Because that could be important. Now it's a little bit easier to get out. How have you been searching? Are you working with an agent? What will it take for you to buy a home? Let's meet for 15, 20 minutes. What would work better? My number is, I'll send you a confirmation email. You confirm their email address. Every seller is going to want to know, are you going to be paying cash? Or are you going to need a loan? Right? Now, sometimes I remember saying that to people sort of tongue in cheek, because I thought, everybody had been saying, oh, I'm going to need a loan. The last person had said, I'm going to need a big loan. And then I threw that out, kind of with a smirk, and the guy said, no, it'll be cash. This was a $2.65 million property in Cupertino, and he said, no, it'll be cash. Okay. Jody would be unhappy to hear that, but otherwise, oh, that's cash. We need proof of funds. You need to get everything together if they're going to be serious. And what that means is a pre-approval letter from a real lender that doesn't look shoddy, right? That looks professional, that would be impressive to a listing agent and a seller. You're going to need proof of funds, which would be evidence that they have enough money in the bank in order to put down the down payment. Right? I've asked people, because they're like, well, I don't know, even this, well, I don't know, I think so. This is what I've asked people. I said, if you were going to write a check that wouldn't bounce, what's the most you could write the check for? And if that number is significantly different from the amount of money they're going to need for the down payment, where's the rest coming from? More dialogue. Again, this is just sort of a sample. I cut and pasted a bunch of things. You're going to see that there's a lot of repetition in the kind of questions that we're asking, right? But this is if after you've done this a while, you just keep, I don't have a list anymore because I always ask the same questions. So a unique selling proposition. A USP or a USP, unique selling proposition. What this is about is how are you going to explain what you do? Let's schedule a time to sit down and show you exactly how to position you to win in this market. What's your schedule like next week? Great, let's meet at my office. Or I always say, let's meet at a local coffee shop. I find, boy, is it a lot easier to get them to meet at the Starbucks or Pete's that they're used to going to. If I needed to meet if I wanted to meet with the buyer in an office, I would be calling Jody and seeing if she would like to meet me and a buyer at her office. And the loan agent is where you might want to do that. Buyer consultation. So this is sort of, I know, a zoom right through. We're going really fast from talking to people about buying a home to the questions that you would ask them to the close, which is the decision you want them to make, which is to work with you and to meet with you, either to talk about the home buying process or to look at homes, to meet with you, to talk about the home buying process and how you can save the money, or to go look at homes. Those are the two most common closes from our conversations. So these are basic questions. Those of you that are in my coaching system, You will notice I have what's called a buyer lead sheet, and there are forms and things that you could use. If you Google searched, you'd find there's a variety of these on the internet. They all kind of look the same. That's just a sample. So 19, and how about the agent you choose to represent you? What's important about that? These extra spaces are bothering me. What are you looking for in an agent? What are you looking for in an agent? What's important to you? By the way, one of the lines that I've used is, I would say to somebody, I would like to apply for the position of being your real estate agent. And sometimes people laugh. They're like, that's fine, okay, that sort of thing. Can I be your real estate agent? I'm your real estate agent. Right? What are you looking for in a real estate agent? What's your timing? What happens if you don't do that? What price range? Have you met with a lender? Again, these are questions. You should be able to explain the home buying process. When I get a Zoom call or phone call where I'm talking oftentimes with the new agent and buyers, sometimes with just the buyers, one of the things they really want to know is what the home buying process looks like, right? What are the different steps, right? And I said, well, first, you've already done the first step. You're meeting with the real estate agent. We're going to, I'll explain the whole process with you. The next step, this is what I get for, the next step is you need to meet with a lender for pre-approval and maybe even to get your rate locked in if you're serious about buying a home. By the way, when I'm talking to a buyer about meeting with a lender, I always say you ought to meet with 3 lenders. You ought to talk to 3 lenders. Number 1, you ought to talk to a bank. You got your money in the bank, something like that. No need, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, one of those. Why not? Number 2, you might want to talk to a credit union. And credit unions are like banks, except they're not as big, but they're also nonprofits. And sometimes they have better loans and rates and things like that. And number 3, a mortgage company. And mortgage companies may charge more for certain things, less for others. It's different, but you ought to talk to a bank, a credit union, and a mortgage company to start the process off. Why don't you talk to my preferred lender, the person that I work the most with, and then I would give them Jody's contact information like I did earlier, and I would tell them, start with her, then go and you could talk to the others. Sometimes they don't talk to others, right? They only talk to the first one, but that's what I would say. Then once we've figured out what you can afford to buy, we're going to look at properties online. We'll be reviewing them. We'll identify the ones, and, on we go. Now, in my documents that I have, including a buyer consultation, which I'm going to do a full-on class on in a little while, I have like a little diagram of the home buying process to go over. But a lot of times I find I'm doing this on the phone, or I'm doing this on a virtual thing. So this is a little bit about exclusivity. And when there was another comment about, a list that was coming up, here is a decent list of the different bullet points that you could throw out. I work with a small number of clients, right, to ensure a personal touch. So, by the way, your ability to get a buyer to sign a buyer representation agreement and to make a commitment to work with you exclusively is going to go way up the busier you get. Once you get to the point where you're running out of time on the weekends to show property, you will now start to become a little more selective. And one of the things that I warn agents about, and there isn't really a good way around it, but it's the what happens if you've only got one buyer, one potential seller, one listing, one escrow. And the reason why that's a dangerous thing is they don't always buy, and they don't always sell, and the listings don't always sell, and escrows don't always close. And so if you've only got one and anything goes wrong, you've now got none. But there's a limited number of buyers that you can effectively work with at any one time. Try working with 5 at one time without help. It could kill you, right? I mean, just think of when are you showing the properties on the weekends and how do you get all of it? It's difficult. So once you get busy, you want to solve the quality issue with your clients, solve the quantity issue. If you have enough leads, then you can be a little more selective. And if you are already busy and it's easy to get people to agree to work with you exclusively, because I've told people, I said, I'm just not going to do it. I can only work with a handful of buyers at any one time, right? And if you're not going to make a commitment to work with me, then I'm not going to make a commitment to work with you. If you want to work with an agent without you having to make a commitment, I'll give you a list. I know a whole bunch of brand new agents that have absolutely no experience that would love for you to work with them. And they probably won't ask for a commitment from you because they have nothing else to do. But if you want to work with me, you're going to have to make a commitment. And at a certain point, you're going to be able to sell that to people. You preview homes. Why would somebody want to work with you? Just think about this. Why would anybody want to work with you? One, it might be that you have market knowledge. When you start talking about homes that you've seen that are on the market, and what it looked like or smelled like or what was good or bad about it, they start seeing you in a different light. You're like, wow, this guy really knows what's going on. Another reason is because you understand loans, right? So that when you hear about, you know what an 80-10-10 is, and you know what the low down payment options are, and you know the different kinds of loan options, not because you're a loan agent, but at least so that you can spot some of the obvious things that you might want to know. Now, if you do not know the market, if you are not previewing homes, if you're not paying attention to like broker tours, if you're not looking at what's in the MLS in the area that you're focusing on, and you don't know the market, then you don't have that as something you could offer them, right? And if you don't know anything about loans, because you're, hey, I'm not a loan agent, I got enough things to worry about, then you can't have that to offer them. Right, but the more you know about the market and the more you know about loan options, the more effective you'll be as a buyer's agent. We also look for coming soons, right? Bank-owned notices of default, door-knock communities. You'll notice that there's a similarity between that, what I was saying before. How about if I sign your agreement after we go out one or two times? So one of the questions you're going to have to ask yourself is, are you going to show property without somebody signing a written agreement to work with you exclusively? Right? Again, if you're busy, you'll be stronger at getting this. So that's up to you. Sometimes I don't always do it. I sometimes show property and then I try to get a commitment afterwards or get one, but that's up to you. I have a friend who will give me a discount. Will you do the same? That's up to you. I'm willing to admit that I sold a house where I gave a big rebate to the buyer, a big one, and it was, however, a $3,925,000 house, and even with the big rebate to the buyer, it was okay. And there's also a listing involved that's coming up with the same client. So I'm flexible about this. I'm not one of those agents that says, absolutely not, under no conditions will I ever give you a rebate. I'll only list homes for 6%. My last 3 listings were at 6%. However, I'm willing, the next one's not going to be, right? I'm willing to make a deal. So that's, you need to think, what would you be willing to do when they ask you, are you willing to give me something to work with you exclusively, right? And there's ups and downs, right? In some communities, it's somewhat expected. Once you start doing it, then everybody that they tell, oh, I worked with him or her and they gave me, a point back or whatever, then everybody's going to want that. But for some of you, just learning the business, making some money and going through a transaction, it wouldn't be a bad thing. All right, now that's the end of all of these. There's more than you need. My suggestion is you write out even like an outline or something of what feels right for you, right? But remember, what we need to do is we need to tell them what's in it for them. If they work with us exclusively, what we're going to do for them. And we need to have a script where we're asking them to commit to either going to look at properties with us, meet with a lender, or have an appointment where we can talk about the process. How are we doing? So we have RAB stands for Read, Answer, Back. I have a YouTube channel that is true. Yes, it is. The Yosemite value, it's an Ansel Adams print. Repeat, answer back. Some of you are helping me out. Can you have the access to the Google Docs for each class? Absolutely, and more. All you have to do is reach out to me and let me talk to you about coaching teams and things like that. My rate was 2.5% better than the credit union my buyer was adamant about using. Don't count the mortgage broker. I don't count the mortgage broker out, right? Mortgage brokers have more flexibilities. We've got a loan agent among our midst. But anyhow, do you have a class in Starting to Farm, a detailed version? Yeah, I do. By the way, if any of you are, let me just say it for everyone, if any of you are interested in finding out more about how you could maybe expand your business, and you could, let me just get this here. Let's say you would be interested in, how come I have so much stuff? Just so much stuff. So I'm going to put this into the chat, which I just closed down. I can hear somebody. Let's say you would like to find out how you could increase your business, how you might be able to make more money with by talking to somebody like me. I posted my Calendly link in the chat. Reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. No cost or obligation. And I'll see you guys next week. All right. Bye, everybody.